Hello, how are you doing? It's a lovely blue-skied sunny day here in London, but it is very chilly, so I've got my fuzzy warm new top on that I got for Christmas, and I've also made myself a big mug of tea in my new Book Geeks mug that my parents very kindly got me for Christmas. This is actually my third mug of tea that I've had today. I just guzzle tea at this time of year, so giving up caffeine was definitely not a New Year's resolution for me. I also have this brand new microphone that I'm using and testing out, so let me know if you think the sound quality is better or worse or the same if you've watched some of my other videos. But I have a big group of new books that I want to talk about today. Some of them are brand new books that have just been published in 2024, and other books I got over the holidays as presents or I bought for myself. So I want to discuss all of these new books and why I'm so interested in reading them. And I'd love to know if you have read any of these books, or if you got any new books over the holidays that you're really looking forward to reading, or new books in general that you got recently. Please let me know about that in the comments below. So to start off, there is the new novel from Hisham Matar called My Friends, and this is a story about three friends of Libyan heritage who have moved to the UK and made a life for themselves here, and it's about their experiences being involved in protests in front of the Libyan embassy and the consequences of that, but also about how when revolution breaks out in Libya, how they are torn between their lives in their country of origin and the new lives that they've made for themselves here in the UK. The Endpapers of this are really attractive too, showing an overview of a map, and it has endorsements from authors like Alif Shafak, who says, I've always admired Hisham Matar's tender and compassionate but equally strong and compelling voice, but also the author Priscilla Morris, who wrote Black Butterflies, which was such a great novel published last year. And she says, My Friends is the most beautiful, complete, masterful novel I have read in a long time. Read it. And actually, I've never read anything by Hisham Matar before. He's been previously shortlisted for the Booker Prize, and this has been getting some great reviews, so looking forward to reading this novel. There's also a new novel called Normal Women by Ainslie Hogarth, and Ainslie Hogarth has published some YA novels before and short stories, but I think this is her first novel for adults, and the cover is so striking, isn't it? And it's about a woman who has a lot going on in her life. She's a new mother, she moves to a new location, and she has this fear about going broke, and so she wants to have her own financial independence to support her child in case something happens to her husband. So it's about how she embarks on a very unconventional way of trying to start supporting herself, but also how a new friend of hers goes missing, and she wants to discover what has happened to her. It's described as hilarious and horrific, a look at modern womanhood, and it sounds really intriguing. Now, coincidentally, over the Christmas period, I both bought as a present and got given this novel, Northwoods by Daniel Mason, and so I bought this novel for my father for Christmas, and it was a novel that he wanted to read himself. He showed me a list of books that he was looking to get a copy of, and this was on there, so I felt very good about getting a good present for him, and I know he started reading it and found it a bit of a slow start, but then really got into the story, and I had the same experience. I'm reading this at the moment with my online book club, and we're discussing it, and I know a lot of other readers have had that same experience, because I think in starting to read this novel, it deals with a number of characters very fleetingly before moving forward forward in time and on the story. And I think it's because this novel revolves around a single location rather than any particular characters. But as the story is going on, you find these characters and details from their past start resurfacing into the present in a really unique and fun way. And so, yeah, I'm really enjoying this story, and it's making me feel a lot nostalgic for some things about New England, since it's set in a location there, and there are a lot of details about this particular location that I find very identifiable and real from growing up in there, and recognizing things about the natural environment. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying it and having great discussions with my online book group about it. Endpapers by Jennifer Savran Kelly. This novel was given to me by my friend Christy, who's one of my oldest friends that I'm still in contact with, who I knew in high school. And she's also a really big book geek, so we always give each other books. And this novel, she says, was one of her favorite books that she read last year and hasn't seen many people talking about. I'd never heard of this book before she gave it to me, but it sounds really interesting. It's about a character in the early 2000s who works as a bookbinder and who is genderqueer and an artist and preparing for their first big art show, but hasn't produced much work recently. And then they discover a book that's a lesbian pulp novel from the 1950s that has an image on the cover of a woman looking in a mirror and seeing reflected back the image of a man, and become so obsessed with this image in this book that they want to track down the author that wrote it. So it's about that journey and this journey of self-discovery. As a Secret Santa present in a physical book club that I belong to, I was given the graphic novel Rusty Brown by Chris Ware, and I don't know how this member of my book club knew that this would be a good book for me, but it's really the perfect present because I've read Chris Ware's graphic novel Jimmy Corrigan before, and I loved that book, and I've been wanting to read more graphic fiction, and this looks really excellent. It was published in 2019. It's about a boy who believes that he has this super power of hearing, and following his story as well as his family and some other characters connected with him. But it's set in the winter time, so it's great for reading this time of year, and I've been really enjoying flipping through it and reading and getting into the story. He conveys such great emotion through like real like minimalist drawings, but an issue I'm having with it is some of the text is incredibly small. So you have this story going on in the present at the top, but you also, at least at the very beginning, have a counter story that's going on in the small boxes on the bottom. And some of this writing is just so small. I mean, I think my reading eyesight is okay, but I'm finding it really difficult to actually read the text of it. So that's slightly challenging, but I am enjoying the overall mood and feeling and story of this book so far. As a Christmas present, my wonderful husband gave me this beautiful old Everyman's Library edition of To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I think this was printed in the 1960s, and it's just a really cool old copy of the book. And I can't convey a sense of smell through video, what John Waters called odorama, but if I could, you would get a real old book smell from this novel, because yeah, it's quite a whiffy. So yeah, I love Virginia Woolf's writing. I made a video last year about her novel The Waves is my favorite novel of all time, and To the Lighthouse is a story I've had a slightly like mixed past with, because when I read this novel early on in my 20s, I absolutely loved it and thought it was really profound. I tried to revisit it a number of years ago and just wasn't really able to get into it in the same way, which is so surprising, isn't it? So I do need to go back and to try to reread this book at some point, because yeah, the way she creates these characters' lives of this family that go to the seaside and and showing changes to their family over a period of time, I think is really striking. And her writing is just so rich and filled with so many layers that you can almost take each sentence and find so much meaning from it. While I was visiting my family in America for Christmas, my husband and I got this really cool new edition of Edith Wharton's classic novel, The Custom of the Country, and it comes with a foreword by director Sofia Coppola, because I think she's making it into a film. And I've read some of Edith Wharton's most famous works, like The House of Mirth and Age of Innocence, and I love those novels. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this book by her, especially in anticipation of hopefully a film, or maybe it's a series about this story that Sofia Coppola is making. It's the story of a woman who is spoiled and wealthy, but also a really fascinating character, following her over a period of time through marriages and her relationships, and her living in this high society life of New York and New England of the early 20th century, like Edith Wharton writes about so well. I mentioned the director John Waters earlier because my parents gave me for Christmas his memoir called Carsick, when he hitchhiked across America. So I think a large section of the opening of this book describes his anticipation of this journey, and he hitchhiked from Baltimore to California, and about the people he thought he was going to meet, and then it records his experiences actually going on this journey and some of the people he encounters and finds. And I've always been a big fan of John Waters' movies and his sense of humor. I've never read any of his books before, and so yeah, this was a great present they gave me, and they picked up a copy of it because they went to Los Angeles and to Hollywood to the new Museum of Motion Pictures that's there, and they had a special exhibition about John Waters on there. I wish I could have gone and saw that, but yeah, really looking forward to reading this comic book. Another really fun sounding book that I'm looking forward to reading is Miss D and Me, Life with the Invincible Betty Davis by Kathryn Sermak, who was an assistant to Betty Davis in the last years of her life and also became a good friend of hers. So she writes about her experiences with this great actress and the drama of the later years of her life. And I hope she describes in this book Betty Davis' experience making the movie The Whales of August, which is one of my favorite films of all time. It was one of the last films that she made. It co-stars Lillian Gish and Vincent Price, who are obviously in the later stages of their lives as well. It is the most beautiful movie. It's so understated and just gorgeous, describing this experience of these elderly sisters in the later years of their life, living in a single household. And the whole drama of this film is whether they should get a picture window looking out into the sea, and it's set in the state of Maine. It also has a very small part played by Mary Steenburgen, who's another one of my famous favorite actresses. And yeah, I just love that movie so much. It makes me weep and cry because it's so gorgeous. Anyway, looking forward to reading about all of the drama of life with the great Betty Davis. A really lovely looking nonfiction book I'm looking forward to is The Owl, a biography by Stephen Moss. And this is an account of many different kinds of owls. And like many people, I have a real affection for owls. They're just these beautiful, but also like mysterious and very independent creatures. And it comes with, look at the Endpapers of this. It's so gorgeous. And it's looking at the lives of barn owls and tawny owls and snowy owls. And every year in a park very close to where I live, there's a country show, and they have a birds of prey exhibition in which they bring a number of owls to this park and give demonstrations with them. And I just love going to see that and reading about owls. And so I'm looking forward to finding out more about these beautiful creatures. Cinematic Places by Sarah Baxter. This is a really lovely book that describes different locations around the world that have been used in different films, and it also has really lovely illustrations of all these different places. And so I think this will be a great book to read through and look through and give me some goals of places to visit, because my husband is such a big film buff. Often when we travel to different places, if there have been films that have been created in these different locations, we'll go to some of the locations. So when we went on this journey up the West Coast in America, we visited the location, the famous beach from the Goonies, and the location of Twin Peaks and different places like that. So yeah, I think this will be really fun to read through. And finally, for Christmas, my parents very kindly gifted me this copy of Maine My State, written by the Maine Writers Research Club in the early 1900s. And this actual copy was gifted to my paternal grandmother in the 1950s, and it looks like a really fun history of the state of Maine itself, because when Europeans first came to North America, Maine was one of the first places that was settled in, and so when it gives an account of that, the very first section is by Theodore Roosevelt of his vacation to Maine, and Maine, of course, is known as the vacation state, and I grew up in Maine, so it'll be really interesting to read about the early history of it. I started reading an account of the very first Christmas that was celebrated in Maine, which was celebrated in a way very different from how we normally celebrate Christmas. So yeah, this will be really fun to read through, but also really meaningful, since this was my grandmother's copy, and knowing that she had read this herself, and yeah, it's another book that has a real old book smell to it. So yeah, this will be a real treasured copy on my library shelves that I have. So those are a number of new books I have, or new old books that I was given recently, and so I'm looking forward to reading a number of these books. Like I said, if you have read any of these books, I'd love to know your thoughts on any of them, or if you're interested in reading any of them now, or any new books that you've received recently that you are looking forward to reading. Please let me know about that in the comments below. Hope you're doing well and staying warm and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.